Hello and welcome to Horse Illustrated's webinar series. My name is Mary Cage. I am the digital manager here at Horse Illustrated, so I will be the host today. And of course, our guest this month is Caroline Tatum from the Secretariat Center, where she is currently the Equine Program Director and Trainer. She is a lifelong advocate for thoroughbred welfare. Her career has spanned every phase of a horse's life cycle, from foaling barns to, of course, now retraining centers. And at the Secretariat Center, she oversees all aspects of care, retraining, and rehoming for off-track thoroughbreds. So I think we can learn a lot from her today about thoroughbred aftercare and the retraining of off-the-track horses. So, Caroline, first of all, thank you so much for joining us and being with us today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always like to start by asking if you can tell us the story of how you very first fell in love with horses.
I really think I was probably born this way.
Yeah.
I first started like noticing horses when we were driving around, like my family's from Aiken, South Carolina, so it's very horsey there. And I would just like point out, oh, look, there's a horse. Oh, look, there's a horse. And so my mom thought, well, we'll just get her some riding lessons. She'll be around them. That'll fill that excitement about the horses, and then that'll be it. But it was kind of only the start there. So I think just the draw of being in Aiken and seeing the horses was really just what got me hooked on them, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think the best way to describe it is I was kind of born that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I feel like for a lot of us girls, obviously we hear it's just like a phase to become a horse crazy girl. And a lot of us just simply don't grow out of
Don't
it.
grow in
And
it, yeah.
yeah, exactly. It just gets in your blood. And yeah, they're an easy animal to be drawn to for sure. So when did you know that you wanted to take that love of horses and turn it into a career?
So I do not come from a horsey background. My mom is an accountant and my dad is an engineer. So they're very school driven, right? So the plan was, well, you've got to be a veterinarian if you want to work with horses because that's the only job that you can do to work with horses. So I just still enjoyed like the riding, and then I ended up going to Berry College in Rome, Georgia, and I did my undergrad there, and it's a working college, so I had a job in the horse barn, and I was on the IHSA team there, and so I filled all my time with riding there, and I would stay like winter breaks, summer breaks, just to work with the horses, and I kind of found myself like missing labs and missing classes because I was like working and riding. And so I figured I probably wasn't going to be good for vet school. Um, Focusing on, class and the studying. And so I kind of tried to figure out, okay, what are the other paths with horses? And the Chemi program, Kentucky Equine Management Internship, came and spoke at my school. And I figured that's a great way to get either my foot in the door or find that little niche that I was looking for, because I'd done the breeding program at our college. We bred quarter horses there. So I applied for the spring internship, and that's where I got in at WinStar. And then as soon as I moved to Lexington, I realized like there's a lot more out there in horses than just being a veterinarian or being a professional, because I did not have a horse growing up. I just would take lessons or catch ride other people's horses. So I didn't really realize how many opportunities there actually were out there. So I thought, okay, well, I'll never be a professional rider or a trainer because I don't have access to that. So I know I can work and I know I'm a good worker. So I picked the internship at WinStar and did the mares and foals there. And that really opened my eyes to all the different opportunities there are with horses.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is crazy how many different career paths there is within the horse industry. But when you're talking to quote unquote normal people,
Yeah.
you'll tell them there's a horse industry and they're like, what? There's a whole industry around the horses. And
Mm,
it's amazing how many different careers exist within it. And then obviously you have different disciplines and all of that. So obviously with Kimmy and working at Windstar, you got to dip your toes into the thoroughbred industry. And
mm.
along the way, you know, had experiences with several prestigious breeding farms in the Kentucky area, you know, homes to Kentucky Derby winners, Belmont winners, Breeders' Cup winners. Um, and as we discussed, you've worked with horses through every stage of their life cycle. But and then you went on to, of course, have South Boundary Stables, where
Yeah.
you retrained dozens of off-the-track thoroughbreds, and you still compete with your own thoroughbreds and eventing. So when did that kind of switch from being hands-on with the horses prior to racing or during racing turn into a desire to work in aftercare and their off-the-track careers?
I I do know that I was always like in the right place at the right time, like working for the right people, learning the right things, and then whenever the next avenue or opportunity showed up, I was like right there and ready to learn and participate in really the next step. So I really feel like every little niche of the thoroughbred industry brought me here. And when I first started South Boundary, I really just started it because my first thoroughbred, well, really the first horse I have ever owned was from the thoroughbred farm, Athens Woods, that I managed. And we were actually supposed to pony yearlings off of that horse. And he absolutely hated it. So I was like, well, I think he could probably fox hunt or event. So I started taking him to all different things. And he's really the horse. His name's Financial Empire. He is the horse that like started all of this for me, really.
Mhm.
And the business was so that I could take care of him because I'd taken care of him every day for the last 5 years. So I really couldn't see myself boarding him anywhere. So I leased a little barn in Paris and it was 9 stalls. And so I was going to just have like a couple horses to rehome and retrain so that I could afford the rent basically, and then have a little bit on the side by teaching lessons and having horses in training board. But then it kind of just got bigger and bigger and bigger on accident. Like the idea was never to have a 23 stall barn with over 30 customers. And so when things in my life changed a little bit and I was ready to reroute basically. And the opportunity to work at the Secretariat Center came up. And just once again, in the right place at the right time, I found a really good trainer to take over the barn that I had been boarding or running my business out of. So then all
Mhm.
my boarders and my customers, they were taken care of. So I felt like I was able to move on and do something different.
Yeah.
And I'd always, really, with every position I was in, I was trying to become a better horsewoman, a better rider, a better trainer. And running the boarding business, I was more focused on the boarding business than
Right.
all of that. Right. And so when this opportunity came up, it was just once again in the right place at the right time, working hard so that the right people saw me and knew what I could do and wanted to do. So when this opportunity opened up, I said, well, this is a great way for me to be a better horse person, be a better rider, be a better trainer. And then I was able to focus on the aftercare. Because here I still teach people because we've got volunteers and interns. And so that was a really great way for me to bring literally everything I had learned before this into this position.
Right. Absolutely. And it makes sense. And there's just so many different steps that you um, can take along the way with horses. And like you said, sometimes they just kind of find their way naturally. But let's talk about the Secretariat Center. Can you tell us more about its mission and just what it exists for and what it does?
Yeah. And so we are inside the Kentucky Horse Park. It's a 10 stall barn with about 24 acres. And our mission is to retrain off the track thoroughbreds and find them new homes and find them lasting homes and have the retraining set the groundwork for the rest of their lives. So our mission is to more retrain horses than maybe to rehome.
Mhm.
Obviously, we do end up rehoming them, but the idea of bringing them in is the retraining part.
Absolutely. And what does your role as equine program director and trainer kind of entail on a weekly basis?
Um, I think that's like every horse job. We all do everything,
Yeah.
right? Um, the Secretariat Center is a nonprofit, and we have 4 full-time employees, 2 in the office, 2 in the barn. So it's myself and my farm manager in the barn, and she also rides with me too. So we are very much hands-on, feet on the ground. I'm bringing horses in, I'm doing stalls, we're doing the hay, I'm making grain. It's pretty much all hands on deck all the time. But we are really lucky that we are able to also come into the office in the afternoons and we work on fundraisers, we work on marketing, we work on the media. I am in charge of screening everyone that wants to adopt a horse. And so they have to fill out an adoption application and 3 separate references. And then once those are in and approved, that comes to me and I reach out to them and try to figure out, okay, do we have a horse that suits their needs? Do we have a horse that would match what their goals are? And then if we don't, then I'm still keeping in touch with those people to make sure that if we get a horse in that would suit them, they know about it.
Yeah.
Um, so really just kind of like matchmaking here is a lot of my job,
Yeah.
and training our interns and our volunteers and even our farm manager, just kind of with the way of how the thoroughbreds learn before they come to us, because not everyone has seen them from the beginning to the end. So there's a lot of things that the more people that I can teach, the more that those people can go out and also teach the people that they know. So it's
Yeah.
really just kind of spreading spreading the knowledge of the thoroughbred world too.
Yeah, for sure. And that point you touched on about how thoroughbreds learn, especially if you haven't been around them, the Secretariat Center describes itself as the gold standard of thoroughbred reschooling. So, can you kind of dive into why that is and what the center's approach is?
Yeah. So we take it very slow with them, in the way that we really like to know who they are as horses. So we like to think how they think, right? And train them how they think. So we make sure that so when we start them, we will either start them like in the round pen or on a lunge, and we just try to figure out what kind of personality they have. Are they reactive? What have they learned? Do they know voice commands? Have they been taught what the leg means, what the rein aids mean? And then we do building blocks there. So we don't rush them to learn things that they're not ready for. And we really try to treat them all as, well, we do treat them all as individuals. And if one horse just needs to learn how to stand in the cross ties for a week, that's what he learns for that week.
Mhm.
So just really making it a specifically tailored program for each horse. So that way we can give them the correct um, like base of training, basically. That way, when they leave from us, we know what they do know and what they don't know. And that
Yeah.
way we can set them up for success with their adopter, because we really like to give them all the basics before they leave here. So I'd say in a, the long or the short of the long would be they leave here knowing all the basics.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that approach because they're not cookie cutters. All horses are their own
Mm.
individuals. And then of course coming off the track, they all have different backgrounds too. And yeah, so it makes sense that it's a very individualized process. And with that, how can you kind of help set up a horse for long-term success in a totally new career?
That's I think knowing that is probably the gold standard, right? Is that
Yeah.
we get them, they can be 2 and unraced, or they can be 8 and have sat in a field for 3 years and raced 40 times, So it's
Yeah.
really just understanding when they come here what their history was, and really understanding what the horse came to us knowing and what they're very good at. So we really try. So I do eventing, obviously, but my farm manager, Anna, she's a hunter rider, so she did show hunters growing up. So that I think is a really, really good, like broad basics, right? Is
Yeah.
I'll ride a horse and I'll go, look, this is more of your ride. This is more for a hunter than an eventer, or vice versa. And if we set them up with skills that they like, then they're going to be more willing to understand what we're asking them to do.
Yeah.
And as you know, they're all built so different. So really just going off of what they're conformationally able to do when they come to
Mhm.
us, and teaching them the basics that they can understand and comprehend. There's some that, they don't like going on trail rides, and then there's some that don't like being in the arena. So we try to teach them in a way that they can understand because they enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I guess really the biggest example is at the racetrack, they tie them to bungees on in the stalls on the wall. So half the time, none of them have ever been in cross ties before. So if we can teach them where, how, if we can like slowly change them into standing on the cross ties, then they can understand, okay, I already knew this basics. So if we can move it over to these basics that like all the other show horses know, then
Yeah.
that sets them up, because we didn't just show them A and B, we taught them this is the skill, but if we can teach you to the next skill that you need to learn from what you already know, then they can, which their brains are the size of a peanut sometimes, but they can pick up on how and why. And
Yeah.
I think letting them understand the how and the why is really what sets them up for success.
Yeah, definitely. And then as we know, a lot of times these off the track horses, there's a lot of misconceptions about them and what horses are like coming off the racetrack. Do you face that with potential adopters, and kind of what are your thoughts on the various misconceptions about OTTBs?
Yeah, I think one, well, I guess there's two, is that they are like hot and fast and all they want to do is run. But the reason we have them is because they didn't want to run.
Yeah.
Um, and the second one is that they have bad feet.
Mm.
Um, they are shod differently than show horses, which makes their angles different, which makes the conformation of their feet different. So then it turns them into having bad feet, most likely. I mean, a horse is a horse, no matter if it's a warm blood or a thoroughbred. Warm bloods can have bad feet, thoroughbreds can have great feet. It's how they are managed and taken care of at the racetrack. So then if you just put them outside without managing their feet, they will have bad feet. So it's really educating people in why they might have those misconceptions, so that they can understand, okay, he does probably have bad feet at the moment, but that doesn't mean for his whole life he will have them, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and just explaining to them what happens on the racetrack and the things that they don't see or learn about, to why they might think of those misconceptions. Um, and then when people, because at the Secretariat Center, you really should ride them before you adopt them. I think the only time we've ever had people not ride them was since I've been here, it was 2 trainers and it was sight unseen, which is pretty rare for us. I really, really want people to come ride the horse, meet the horse, because they might like the horse in the video, but they might not mesh together because it's a
Mhm.
partnership. So if the rider and the horse don't get on, then it's never really going to work. Um, but when people come to ride the horses and they might have that misconception of them being hot or strong or fast, it's really interesting when I explain to them why the horses go the way they go when we get them because of the way they're ridden at the racetrack. It's not because they don't know anything, it's because someone has taught them something in a different language than the language that we're trying to tell them. So I think really educating people about how they're managed, trained, and taken care of at the racetrack is what builds those misconceptions. It's not actually the horse.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you kind of consider that the main advice that you give people who are maybe around and off the track thoroughbred for the first time is just that they're still a horse, they're still trainable and moldable, they just speak a different language?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Especially the ones that have been to the races.
Yeah.
The ones that are unraced, they most likely went through the sales. So they've been
Mhm.
prepped as weanlings or yearlings as 2-year-olds. So they know a lot more than other weanlings, yearlings, and 2-year-old horses. Yeah, they might not understand what you're asked that, you can pick up their feet from the right side, but they do understand how to pick up all 4 feet from the left side. So just teaching people why their horses might be doing what they're doing, which that's a horse, that's horse training
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
nutshell, right?
Hmm.
But the way that their horse is thinking is, yeah, that's pretty much how, like, I teach people when they come to try the horses of why they're behaving the way they are is because that's all they know.
Yeah, that's the way they were taught. So,
Hmm.
um, so what do you kind of consider the most rewarding part of your job and of working with horses off the track?
There's two. One is obviously when we match the right horse with the right owner,
Yeah.
and we get updates on them, and they're, as proud of the horse as we are, to show off how good they're going. But I think really the everyday rewarding is when the new horse comes in and he's learned X, Y, and Z from yesterday. When you start to see like all those little building blocks like click together, that is so rewarding because everybody else sees it too. So it's a really big group effort of, oh, we are teaching this horse something and it is holding. He is
Yeah.
learning it, and now he's ready to go out and find a new home. Because a lot of times we will keep the horses for at least 90 days before we even put them up for adoption because we want to make sure that they understand the basics before we even put them up for adoption.
Yeah.
So seeing all those little tiny things click together is like, that's really exciting.
I love that. And kind of on that note of, what these horses can really go on to do and that, their lives don't just end after the racetrack. Um, can you kind of touch on the importance of thoroughbred aftercare, of these horses coming off the track?
Yeah. I think probably the number one reason that people don't want to get a thoroughbred off the racetrack is because they don't understand what the horses know, right? So they are feeling a little bit intimidated about being able to retrain them. So I think the more people that we have advocating for the retraining of the horse and the education of just the general public or just other disciplines in the horse world, um, is going to make aftercare a little bit easier, really, for the big farms.
Mhm.
But all the big farms, they understand that they need to do the aftercare and they want to do the aftercare. The biggest problem that we're having now is having homes to put the horses in because people are not feeling confident taking them on, which I think like the Retired Racehorse Project has done a really, really good job with that, making people feel confident in taking the horses on. Um, so, I mean, obviously aftercare to me is very important, but it's the hard part is not finding the horses, the homes, because they're not able to go into the homes. It's finding them the homes that are going into educated, they're going to educated homes. So
Yeah.
I think that the thoroughbred industry is doing a great job with aftercare, but I think all of the different organizations, whether it be like USEA, the Dressage Federation or the Hunter Jumper Federation, I think they could somehow pull in thoroughbred aftercare into their programs too by doing more education. So it is very, obviously it's very important, but I think everyone's a little stuck on how do we send these horses out to more people. And I
Yeah.
think getting those types of education programs would be really, really beneficial to aftercare.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's kind of the whole, as you've described, mission of Secretariat Center, as you guys here, they're not only to educate the horses into their new lives, but potential adopters and people um, about why they are the way they are and
Mm.
that they can still be a great athlete or partner after the races. What ways does the Secretariat Center kind of interact with the public in that way and educate them beyond just potential adopters?
We go out to like so we're in the Kentucky Horse Park, which is awesome. So we can go, we'll have a table like at Vendor Row at a lot of the horse shows so that people can stop by and get information. We hack a lot of our horses down during horse shows and they have saddle pads that say Secretariat Center. And I think that's very special because people will kind of look and go, that doesn't look like a thoroughbred. Is that a thoroughbred? And it's really fun to educate them on like, yeah, it's only 3 and they can't even fathom that a 3-year-old would be going down to the horse show, you know. um, and we do education programs like by doing our internships and by doing our volunteer program. And we are with Horse Country Tours as well. And so we've got tours that come every Wednesday and Friday at 1. And we teach, it's usually not horse people. And so we're able to teach them about sorry, my dogs. We're
Totally
able
get it.
to teach them about what we do at the Secretariat Center and like what makes us the gold standard.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it obviously it's important for the general public also to understand that these horses are being cared for after they're done racing or if they didn't even make it to the races and that their lives still have so much potential and that there's these avenues for them to take. So yeah, education, as you said, is going to continue to be and still is such an important aspect of it. What are ways that people maybe can get themselves involved with aftercare? Maybe that's with the Secretariat Center.
To be involved with us, you would just go on our website and there's a form to fill out to be a volunteer, or you could be an intern. You don't have to be in school to be an intern. We've got interns, or we've had interns that were out of school and beyond graduation age, and they just wanted to learn a little bit more. And we also have like we put on little schooling shows. And so being involved in that way, even if you want to just bring your horse for a schooling show, is a good way to get involved with us too. And we just, yeah, we're trying to have more presence out in the area now. I've only been here for a little over a year now. Well, I guess it's a year and 6 months now. So it's kind of expanding the education program is something that we've really been working on this year.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really great. My last question for you before we move into the audience questions is just overall, what advice would you give to any aspiring equine professionals, whether that's with thoroughbreds or not?
Um, I think just always say yes. So if someone asks you to come in early, say yes. If someone asks you to stay late, say yes. Always be where you can be at the right opportunity at the right time. If you are always putting in the work and the effort, it might not feel like people are noticing, but people do notice. And putting in the time and the effort will be worth it. And sometimes it might not be things that you want to do, but you can learn from doing literally any job in the horse industry. You can learn something, whether it's about yourself or about the horses or about people. So I think really just always say yes, so that you can be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, we will move into the audience Q&A portion now. So guys, feel free to submit any questions. You can submit them again at any time, and you can submit more than one. We do have a question from Kim asking, what is the most difficult part of your job at the Secretariat Center?
Um, Probably having horses that we cannot rehome. Having horses that it's either unsafe to rehome them, whether they have behavioral issues or physical issues, and having to make the decision that it is better for that horse to be humanely euthanized than it is to, as a 3-year old, if they've got crippling arthritis in their neck and they have terrible kissing spine and their feet are crumbling, it's probably not a good horse to live out in a pasture for the next 23 years.
Yeah.
That would be cruel. So having horses that come in that we put months and blood, sweat, and tears into, and they are not able to be rehomed. That's definitely the hardest part. But it's a decision that someone has to make, and in a way, we do know that we're still doing right by the horse. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah.
the humane and right thing. On a happier note, Kim also asked if you can, if you have any happy adoption success stories that you can share.
Yeah. So when I got here a year ago, a little over a year ago, we had a horse that had been here for a year. His name was Kang, and he was just kind of like the typical like grouchy thoroughbred that doesn't want to be pet, doesn't want to be brushed. So he just kind of always got passed over, and he was just plain dark bay. So he always got skipped. And we worked like really hard to understand him and understand why he wasn't excelling in his training. And during the Pony Club rally last year, we had a bunch of tours come out and a bunch of Pony Club riders come out, and a young rider ended up riding him, falling in love with him, adopted him. And she is now in Florida, and they just did like the young riders camp at Stable View with him, and they are absolutely like tearing it up in eventing. So I think that's like probably my like happiest adoption, because he he cribbed too. So he just had like everything against him
Yeah.
to get passed over and not get adopted. And so now he's like loved by a teenager, and the whole farm loves him, the family loves him. So yeah, that's probably our happiest one.
I love that. Can't go wrong with the grumpy gelding and teenage girl combination.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, he's gonna teach her a lot.
I love that. A quick question from Sheila is just what is your website address so that people can learn more about Secretariat Center?
Yeah, it's secretariatcenter.org. It's very, very
Perfect.
easy.
Nice. Let's see. Grace wants to know if you have any, it's hard to pick favorites, I know, but if you have any favorite horses that you've worked with.
Um, I guess like in the barn right now, I do. It's really hard when they leave because you kind of end up having another one slide into the favorite section. But right now, the eyes at horse that we have, he's probably my favorite to ride at the moment.
Nice. Let's see. Um, Jill wants to know what are some of the careers that you've seen OTTBs from the Secretariat Center go on to do?
We've got police horses,
Wow.
therapy horses, barrel racers, and then, the typical English disciplines, the eventing, dressage, hunters, jumpers. They do trail. Um, I don't know if we've had one that does cow work, but um, who knows?
Yeah.
We've sent them to Colorado, we've sent them to Canada, we've sent them all over the United States. So they're out there doing all the disciplines basically.
Yeah. That's super cool. Yeah, there's just really no limitations to what a thoroughbred can
Mm-mm.
do.
Oh, polo. We had
Nice.
3 in one year go and do polo.
Very cool. Kind of on the note of what thoroughbreds can do, Veronica's question is, since you also compete in eventing with your own thoroughbreds, how do you think thoroughbreds compare to other breeds competing in eventing?
Um, I think you know that you'll most likely always get most improved. Um, you are nearly always guaranteed to come back and finish the cross country pretty strong. But if you are accurate in your dressage and you show off the horse that you have and you don't try to fit them into the mold of the warm blood movement, then you're always up there too in your dressage scores. If you ride the horse that you have and you train the horse that you have, you can still get those fancy footwork points. And you know that the thoroughbred's always going to show up for you day of. Um, I had not competed a lot of warm bloods, but I do know like the heart of thoroughbreds is you're always going to get a horse that's there for you that day. So I mean, Monica Spencer almost won Aachen on a thoroughbred this year. So they can do it and they're still out there at the upper levels. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Remy is asking, how hard is it to take care of all the horses there when you have so many horses under your care with a small team?
well, we only have 10 and I
Okay.
used to have 25 with just myself and my assistant at South Boundary Stables. So really this is a lot more manageable. But it's also amazing that our farm manager Anna is so good. She's always like one step ahead. So her and I work really well together. So having a team that works well together is really I guess, the key to how we take care of them.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, Lisa, I think the answer to your question is yes. How long you've been working there? You said about a year and a half now.
Yep. And ever since I started, we have not had a horse returned. So every horse that I have gotten adopted has stayed with who adopted it.
That's
And that
great.
is the first time in 20 years. So we're really proud of that.
Yeah, you should be. Well done. Jenny's question is if you have a go-to technique that you use to get to know the thoroughbred as they come into the center.
Grooming them, spending time with them. So if you're the one that's bringing them in, grooming them every day, turning them out, you really get to know what they're like. But like getting them ready for under saddle, I really like to put them in the round pen and just see the type of horse that they are. Are they reactive? Are they spooky? Are they just a little dull? Are they just a typical gelding? And just really getting to know them on like a personal level as more of a pet, really, I guess is the best way to describe it. So you can learn their personalities. That's really how I like to do it.
Yeah, makes sense. Sophie has a big question of what do you think is the appropriate level of ownership you'd like to see from racing industry stakeholders in the aftercare process, and how do you think that can be better fostered going forward?
I think it's hard in like with the big farms, right? Because they do have so many horses and there are so many, either the farm manager or the barn foreman. Those are the people that really know the horses on a personal level, but those aren't the people that make the decisions for all the horses, whether it's the trainers, the owners, the breeders. There could be 10 owners on one horse. Um, so I think having like a like which it's going to be nearly impossible for the people that own big farms to know every single one of their horses and exactly what they need at every moment. But I think if mm, more farm owners or big breeders or big horse trainers were able to kind of give their staff, I guess, more leeway in making the decisions, then I think we'd probably be better off in aftercare,
Yeah.
because a lot of the times owners want a specific horse to do a specific thing, but the barn foreman knows that that's not the best idea. So then the trainer has to keep going. Just little things like that, where there's a lot of, I guess, cooks in the kitchen when it comes to finding them what their best aftercare position is.
Yeah, yeah. Her question is, how do you approach things differently between horses with maybe no limitations versus horses with significant limitations?
So if they have, like right now, we do have one in the barn that has significant limitations that we didn't know about until we got him. But we've found out that he loves obstacles and doing like competitive trail things. So we know that now, and we're really trying to like build that for him so that he is going to be the best of competitive trail, right? Or horses that maybe just need to be a dressage only home. We're going to really, really focus on their basics in the dressage training and trying to make them the best they can be at what they can do. And make sure that, like right now, the one horse that does have significant limitations, his x-rays are on our website on his page, because we want to be so transparent about
Yeah.
what these horses can and can't do. And we just want people to know, like I usually will tell people the first three things that are bad about the horse before they even end up wanting to come try them or meet them, because if we're transparent, then it's the best thing for the horses and the owners. So I guess just being as transparent as possible for those guys.
Yeah, 100%. Kind of a similar question from Karen. Are there ever horses that come off the track that are more difficult to retrain than others? And if so, how do you approach that?
Yeah, it's and it's not usually the ones that are, that have raced a long time or the ones that are unraced. They're all individuals in their personalities.
Mhm.
But it's really finding out what they like to do. And then kind of it is like working with toddlers. It is figuring out what they like, what they can excel at, and then sliding in all the other little basics that they need to learn. For example, we had one that he would go both directions, walk, trot, canter in the arena, and then he was done. He learned his lesson for the day. He wouldn't go forward. So then we started riding him outside. We started riding him in the field. We started riding him down at the horse park. So just making life different for them every single day so that they are, especially the smart ones, those are the ones that are the hardest,
Yeah.
because they are on to the schedule. And if they don't want to be part of that schedule, then you can't make them do what they don't want to do. So just finding out like what they enjoy has been really the easiest, because they're usually difficult because they're unhappy, not because they're actually a nasty horse. So
Yeah.
it's trying to figure out why they're being difficult and how can we entertain them to
Mhm.
to make them happy to do the job.
Yeah, no, for sure. Liz's question is, how do you decide which horse or horses you bring into the program? I imagine there's a wait list of owners that would like to donate their horses to the Secretariat Center.
Yeah, I really like the big thing would be Anna and myself will go out, and if it looks like a horse that we would want to ride, then that's kind of, where we start. But we always go out and look at them. If they are out of state, we will usually really only take them in if we know the trainer or the owner, and we have seen videos of the horse going and photos of the horse. So all the horses that come in here, the plan is that they do have some sort of second career as a sport horse. So if they have any sort of injuries or a reason for retirement other than they were just too slow and they didn't like it, um, we will get all the vet reports, so ultrasounds, x-rays, everything, and we work really closely with Haggard. And so we have a surgeon there that he reads all of the vet reports and makes sure that like that is the type of horse that would be okay to have a second career.
Mhm.
And then if they kind of pass the vet check, basically, we will go out and meet the horse, see what kind of personality they have, um, make sure it's the kind of build of the type of horse that we're looking for, and really just does their personality fit the program after they've passed the vet check, really,
Sure.
um, is how we pick them.
Okay. Rosalie's question is, what is kind of the average adoption fee for a horse there?
So when they come in, they start at $3,500, and then it either goes up or down from there, depending on, okay, have we found that they have some sort of limitation, or are they going to have a lot of maintenance for them to reach the next step? Then we will drop the price so that whoever is adopting them can put the other funds towards any kind of maintenance or special shoeing that the horse would need. And then as the horses go on in their training, it will increase. And the most we've sold one for since I've been here was $6,500. So all of that money goes back into the next horse that comes in. So
Yeah.
you can imagine that keeping them for at least 3 months gets pretty expensive when we're doing, you know, shoeing, the dentist, the chiropractor, massage. And they get full treatment.
Yeah, that's great though.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Cassie's question is, in all your years in the thoroughbred industry, how have you seen aftercare improve?
I think more people are learning the types of horses that people want to adopt. And so they are getting better at not pushing the horses to have one more race or put in one more breeze, or sending them to such and such race track to run in the lowest stakes race so that they can just get them or sorry, claiming race so that they can get them claimed, right? People are being more cognizant of what type of horse will find find a second home. So I think that's how really the aftercare has improved, is that people are just more aware of the type of horse that will find a second home.
Yeah, makes sense. Shelby asked, you mentioned you compete with your own horses in eventing. Do you still ride a thoroughbred?
Yes. Yes, I do. My thoroughbred is actually here, and he is the best babysitter that we could ever have. Um, A lot of times when the young horses come in, they haven't been turned out for a couple of years, and so they don't really have the best read on the other horse's body language. So he's really good at teaching them how to behave in turnout, or if we have some that are unsure about hacking out or going over cross rail, anything like that, he's a really good leader for them. And it's a good horse to have as like a horse that is finished right from where they started to where they ended, especially in our education programs, like for tours and stuff,
Yeah.
to use him as an example, really.
Yeah. Horses like that are priceless, especially in a setting like that where they can be used as education for both humans and horses. So yeah, we love
Yeah, yeah.
babysitters.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
he is by Arch. He was like he has incredible bloodlines. They thought he was going to end up being a stallion, but he is unraced. And I started him as a 6-year-old. He trained until he was 2, and then he was put in a field. So he's another good example of the way things that the way things can work in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. Lisa wants to know what's your favorite part about working at the Secretariat Center?
Mm, probably like teaching the people and the horses. I think the coolest part is when someone comes to try a horse and maybe they don't understand why the horse isn't understanding what they're trying to get them to do in the arena, and giving them like a little mini lesson of how we restart them, and then things go really well, and then they end up adopting the horse. Because you kind of think, well, if they had just picked him up off whoever, maybe this partnership wouldn't have worked out. So really finding yeah, just teaching the people and the horses is my favorite part.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see why for sure. Well, I think that kind of wraps everything up for us. So, Caroline, thank you again so much for joining us
Yeah,
and
thank
talking
you.
with us. Aftercare is really important to me and for those of us at Horse Illustrated too. So, I think this is really a great topic to explore, and hopefully, people learn some more about thoroughbred retraining today.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, thank you so much.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you and have a great day. All
Bye.
right, bye, everybody.